This is a direct continuation of my last video on Sacrificial Princess and the King of Beasts. Video is in the top right corner. Although Chancellor Anubis tried to convince the king to dismiss Sariphi as the future queen, the king wasn't convinced at all. Well, if you remember, Sariphi actually refused to be the queen, although it was to save the servant of Duke Galois, or the real Galois in this case. It was against the rules. Then, Sariphi learns about the Forbidden Library, which only royalty can enter, and she became very curious about the Forbidden Library. After that, she started searching for the nearest library to find the next volume of the book she was reading. She came across Chancellor Anubis, who showed her the way to the library. Suddenly, Anubis had the idea to kill Sariphi and make it look like an accident. But, before he could kill Sariphi, he suddenly collapsed and became unconscious. While unconscious, we can see a flashback of his childhood with the king and how the king once saved his life. After a while, Anubis finally woke up and saw Sariphi, but instead of thanking Sariphi for saving him, he got angry at her. But surprisingly, during the next council meeting, Anubis suggested that they should respect the royal will and continue to test Sariphi's worthiness as a queen. By the way, if you're enjoying the recap, then a sub to the channel would be massive. Sariphi learns about the first king and queen from Kemono and Sai. Then she also learns about the Grand Consecration and its history. Then she learned that the king was getting dressed for the Grand Consecration, so she immediately heads to the dressing room to see the king. After seeing the king, Sariphi began complimenting him, so the king angrily asked everyone except Sariphi to leave the room. Well, he wasn't angry at all, but he was a little embarrassed. As we learned in the first recap, the king, Leonhardt, is half-human and loses his beast form and powers on Nights of Revelation, so Sariphi brought the king some food to eat. Then the king explained to Sariphi how nervous he used to be about people finding out his secret. But ever since Sariphi came, he has become more confident as a king. On the day of the Grand Consecration, Sariphi was stunned to see that the king didn't get his beast form back. It was because of the storm that blew away all the miasma. By the way, miasma helps the king to retain his beast form. So everyone, including Chancellor and Judge Seto, started looking for the king. Seto also orders the guards to search the altar chambers. As we know, the king was actually hiding there. After that, Jormungand came across Sariphi and asks her if she has seen the king, to which she replied that she hasn't seen him either. Then, the king started to turn back into his beast form, but the king hears someone coming. So, Sariphi quickly ran to the entrance to prevent anyone from entering. After that, she met Judge Seto, and his guards tried to forcibly move Sariphi from the entrance. But the king intervened and stopped the guards from touching Sariphi. Then the king decided to address his citizens without wearing any fancy dress, as there was no time. Traditionally, for the Grand Consecration, the king must address his people or citizens wearing the attire of the first king. But the king manages to win over his citizens with his inspiring speech. Then the king told Chancellor Anubis that it was Sariphi's plan, so Anubis implied that he was very impressed and praised Sariphi. After a while, during a council meeting, Anubis implied that, from now on, Sariphi will be the acting queen consort, but she must perform all of a queen's public duties. He also mentioned that, if she fails to perform the queenly duties properly, or if she ends up tarnishing the king's reputation, then Chancellor Anubis will send her back to the human realm. Then, Chancellor Anubis also implied that, if she declined the offer to become the queen, she can stay with the king, but as his pet. After thinking for a while, Bennu encouraged Sariphi to hold her head high and take on the challenge, and become the queen. So she finally decided to become the queen, and overcome obstacles. The king was quite pleased to hear that Sariphi was ready to become his queen.